5 dead. Forget about the 350 people that died in the boat sinking off the coast of Greece. This is the bullshit that they're putting out to get your mind off what's really going down. And it's going down hot and heavy. We're in the worst crisis in modern history between geopolitics and economics. We are on the verge of an economic collapse. So here's the deal. The Fed says they're going to raise interest rates 2 more times. The ECB is expected to raise them too. So they meet in July, they raise them in the US. They're going to be coming 1 more time, right? That's the beginning of the death of the dollar. Talking about how it got here, where we are and where we're going. The how we got here has happened a long time ago, as they kept pumping cheap money into the economy, particularly during the Great Recession, when they started lowering interest rates and made up some f***ing shit, some f***ing scumbag bankster shit called quantitative easing. So they artificially propped this thing up. This thing was crashing before the COVID war. The lower interest rates fall, the weaker the dollar goes, and the higher gold prices go. Oh, and by the way, oil prices, Brent crude, it's back to almost $80 a barrel now. Yeah, that means inflation is going to go back up in a lot of different ways. And inflation's here to stay. When you look at, oh, the prices are coming down, inflation's going down. The prices of houses aren't going down, they're going back up. An automobile costs almost $50,000 to buy. Hotel prices going up. Motel prices going up. A bunch of food commodity prices going up. Oh, they're going to come down a little bit, but they're still way high. So now, as they raise interest rates, the economy goes down more. Gold prices are down because interest rates are high, and they're raising them everywhere. Yeah. Interest rates will keep rising and stay elevated, central banks warn. This is from the Financial Times. The world's top central bank chiefs have signaled their readiness to increase interest rates further and keep them high. Inflation has driven 4 million Nigerians into poverty, according to the World Bank, and 63% of Nigerians, or about 133 million people, were already classed last November, quote, as being multi-dimensionally poor. This is part of the New World disorder. Why do you think people are leaving their countries? Lack of basic living standards, crime, government corruption, violence, made worse by the sanctions that the United States and Europe put on Russia that have driven up the food prices all over the world and energy prices. So the people are suffering. This is just the beginning. We don't see the markets crashing during the summer, minus a wild card, like a nuclear war, or Israel ramping up the wars in the Middle East as more and more people keep taking to the streets and protesting what's going on over there. They just passed one of the parts of the Judicial Reform Act, bringing more people out, closing down one of the airports. So when all else fails, they take it to war. If Israel goes to war with Iran, you're going to see oil prices go to above $130 a barrel. And that's going to crash the global economy and the equity markets. Americans think they will need $1.3 million to retire comfortably, study says. This just came out. $1.3 million. How many people are going to be retiring with $1.3 million? That's how bad things are. No inflation. No, it's just all in your mind. We're fixing it. And they made up that 2% inflation number, by the way, in 2012. They made the number up. Fed economists say historic 37% of U.S. companies are in big trouble, and one that could worsen the fallout from fighting inflation. That's right. The higher interest rates go, the worse things are going to get. They f***ed this country up and they f***ed the world up. The damage done by the COVID war is not being reported. Oh, and then I forgot the other war, the Ukraine war, where the faces put thousands of sanctions on Russia that have driven up the prices across the board on inflation. And then the COVID war, oh, supply chain disruptions. You get people ain't going to work. What supply chain disruptions? You're pumping trillions of dollars into the economy to artificially prop it up. You're bringing interest rates down to zero and you kept them in negative. And you're wondering why there's inflation and we're going into recession as now you're raising interest rates? Cities across the U.S. are contending with an urban exodus that came with the COVID-19 pandemic. Americans moved to more affordable areas, to the suburbs and countryside, and they sought more space to work increasingly from home and get away from crime and violence. So here's the bullshit that came with the COVID-19 pandemic. You're full of fucking shit. It's the scumbag politicians that locked down the country, the states and the cities. And it wasn't a pandemic, prick. Or I don't know if you could say the other word. They called it a pandemic in 2020 of March when only a couple of thousand people died. And 99.91% of the people are still alive. They're driving us as plantation workers into Slavelandia, and the rich are getting richer, as we talk about now in Economic Update. When they launched the COVID war, in those 2 years, the billionaires got $27 trillion richer, while everybody else got poorer. The S&P went up 16% following the last 40 midterm elections over the past 60 years. They're going to do it again. So the S&P's up, what, 14%. It's coming near an end. And we're forecasting the end is going to come when they start lowering interest rates. And they're going to start lowering interest rates in the run-up to the presidential reality show. We're calling the crash to happen in October, November, December. That's the fourth quarter of this year is going to be when it all starts coming down, when they start lowering interest rates. And the dollar goes down, gold goes up, and it's the beginning. But don't worry, when all else fails, they take you to war.